Monday is a public holiday. You know that, right?
I do.
Now you know. And this public holiday is for what purpose?
We're going to plant trees.
Why?
Because we're trying to, save the environment. Climate change is real, and planting trees and growing trees is important when it comes to saving the environment, and absolutely necessary when it comes to restoration of forests and things like that. Forest cover is a big deal. It's a necessary one, and we want to see the restoration of our lakes and rivers, and making sure that drought, doesn't become so hard on the environment as it has in the past. It's a good thing all around.
All right.
You're convinced, aren't you?
No, I'm not. It's okay. Let's ask the question. The Cabinet Secretary who is in charge of environment, climate change and forestry is the Honorable Soipan Tuya. She's our guest this morning. Good morning, Waziri.
Good morning, Eric.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you.
That's a hot seat of the Situation Room. To welcome you to the conversation, CT will give you something.
Yes. Our proverbs for the whole of this week come from the country of Congo. The Republic of Congo, otherwise known as the Congo or Congo Brazzaville. Now, I mentioned it yesterday that the name Brazzaville was actually derived from the name of a certain Italian nobleman whose name was Pierre de Brazza. Now, oddly enough, he came from a place called Brazzaco. So Brazzaville has a long history. Enough of Brazzaville and Brazzaco. The day's proverb. Now, this is for Tuya's. A cow with milk does not lack someone to milk it.
It's really about milk. And you have the wrong person on the seat.
A cow with milk does not lack a person to milk it. Yes. Waziri, this proverb, what do you think the Bakongo are saying? What's your interpretation of it?
A cow with milk does not lack
someone to milk it.
Someone to milk it. Interesting. As a milker of cows, the first thing is to take it literally. Only that I can milk even a cow without milk and make milk out of it. But in the context of what we are talking about, I can only think about it in the discussions around our ecosystem restoration. And from where I sit, it is our natural resources for me are very rich, but we have not maximized on what they portend for the country. From a livelihood perspective, from a national economic perspective. And I think we are at a point where we are seeing that potential. At least as I sit here, I see a cow with milk that we can really maximize on in this country. And it is in our forests, we need to start quantifying and valuing what we have in our natural resources in terms of how much it is to our GDP, job creation. We have statistics flying around in terms of how much jobs the sector is supporting, how much it's contributing to GDP, but it's not been exhausted. It's not exhaustive. So one, we are living below our potential, and we also fall into the trap of, if you don't value something, then the corresponding profiling, support, and protection it doesn't match what the value of a particular commodity or thing is. A cow in this sense. So I think we can begin by saying that we have a very we have very valuable resources in our hands, and sometimes I say we are sitting on gold and begging with a golden bowl. With regards to our forest resources,
we have what we need.
We have what we need.
Okay.
We just need to maximize on the potential. We need to optimize in terms of what we can derive from what we have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Monday, the government has declared Monday a public holiday with a clarion call to plant trees on the day.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. What's the thinking behind this?
The thinking around, first of all, to just let Kenyans know that yes, we did gazettement of the day under the public holidays law, because that is the legal avenue available. And for me, I would wish that we did not even have to go that far to have everybody stop and think about how important it is to plant trees. And the simplicity of planting a tree is one that Kenyans need to really think about. Because I say that at where we find ourselves, we can no longer do tree planting or growing as a pastime, as just a CSR or a plant and go. We really have to think critically about what the essence of greening our country is about. So we had to do a gazettement of this day. One is to just have, like I'm literally saying, everyone stop in this country and let's think about the climate situation we find ourselves in. We are moving from one cycle of severe drought after another, and we immediately jump into what we are now finding ourselves in. Of course, the debate is whether it's El Nino or not, but you can see the adverse effects of the short rains that we are in right now. And if there was anybody who did not believe that the climate crisis is here with us, I think that number should be diminishing in terms of the number of people who are still thinking, is climate change real or not? So really, the gazettement is first for Kenyans to see the seriousness of the ecosystem restoration plan that we have put in place, where we are saying we plant 15 billion trees. For me, it's the list of actions that Kenya can do to do its part in contributing to the global and the clarion call around climate action. And it is not for my ministry. It cannot be for my ministry to achieve that. It is every individual Kenyans, even little children, as young as 1 year. We can start training our children to plant trees and broadly to value our environment, our ecosystems, and it goes on to, spill into the kind of wanton pollution we see around us. Yeah. And for this pollution, the destruction of our ecosystems, it's like 99% human contribution. So for me, Monday should be a day for Kenyans to really think seriously about what is my position as an individual Kenyan and what is my responsibility in protecting our environment, because it is everybody's responsibility.
Why Monday? Why not this Friday? Why not next Friday?
Of course,
we had anything specific to the 13th of November?
No. I can. There's nothing. Of course, we looked at the calendar and availability of the president is a lead champion, as you have seen. So really, there's nothing special about being a Monday. It could have been a Friday, but then again, the intention is. It is feeding into, if it was Friday, it would have fed into a weekend, but the weekend is preceding the Monday. So the intention is also for Kenyans to really engage in this tree growing. So we have a whole weekend feeding into this Monday. Of course, the Monday being the first day of the week is a serious work day, but we are saying stop all other work, let's do this very important work of growing trees. But then we have a protracted period of the weekend and Monday where then people can really engage in tree growing activities. For Kenyans who are able to travel, you can travel to your home county or up country where maybe you have your shamba and you do your trees. For urbanites particularly, who may not have a lot of space within which to do the tree growing, they can travel to their farms and do the tree growing.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's very clear what has happened with the environment in Kenya for the last, decade plus. Seeing a long drought.
Yeah.
And as we know, with a severe drought will follow the kind of weather patterns that we are seeing now with severe rain. It goes without saying. It also goes without saying that we saw the suffering that many Kenyans went through. 23 counties, over 4 million people affected by not being able to eat food that had been grown. Without any kind of external involvement, COP28, climate summits around the world, it's obviously a Kenyan theme that needs to be handled. Is this activity on Monday a purely Kenyan initiative, void of any kind of external contribution or engagement?
Yeah, this is a purely Kenyan thing. We have our ambition to plant 15 billion trees in the next 10 years, to up our tree cover to 30% from the current 12.3%. And it is a constitutional obligation. We are only expanding the scope of the aspiration. Actually, it's a threshold set by the Constitution. It should be at least 10%. But we feel it is an area where we can really expand our ambition around, because it's an easy thing to do, only if we get the buy-in of Kenyans. Of course, we are party to various multilateral environmental obligations, various legal instruments that we have committed to around the scope of ecosystem restoration. We have a UN declared decade of ecosystem restoration, which runs from up to 2030. We are within that as part of the global village, and the obligations that I've talked about. But this is a purely Kenyan initiative. And like I said, beyond planting trees, what we want Kenyans to know is that tree growing and ecosystem restoration can translate to more food on the table. It can translate to jobs, and at the very bare minimum, we are saying we really want to ensure that our 15 billion trees, at the very bare minimum, 30% should be fruit trees, which then speak to the nutrition needs, food security needs, but also fodder trees. We have fodder trees that can really thrive in arid and semi-arid parts of this country. If we achieve that, then it will be real for Kenyans. I am very sure you give a Kenyan farmer fruit trees to grow that can grow in their locality, they will protect them, because there's something at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Beyond that, we are in a stage where we have the carbon markets, the carbon trading. It's a very nascent field right now. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, if I may call it. We want to. It is a very complicated, and we are in the middle of putting in place a legal framework and regulations that will really break down this carbon trading thing, so that people can see a tangible benefit out of it. It's very moribund and big out there, but ask Latif
to explain.
How do I benefit?
I don't know which part of the country you come from, but there could be people eating carbon credits in your locality.
It's possible.
Actually, those are the places where it's thriving.
That's where it's being
in the conservancies and the grasslands. But if I was to ask you to put a finger at this thing,
I have no idea what it is. I just hear it.
You could easily say it's hot air. Yeah. So the government is not able to say this is how much we are making or how much it's contributing to the GDP of the country. Communities are not able to say that yes, they have engaged with a private investor in carbon trading, and this is their fair share of the benefits. So there is no transparency. It's a whole integrity question of that market. So the legal framework is intended to address the integrity issues, even standardization of how much does a carbon credit cost. Yeah, because we see different pricing. In Europe, it's different. In the America side, it's different. In Africa, it's totally
important. How is
different.
it measured?
It's all those questions.
Because is it in kilos? Is it in liters?
It's in tons.
It's in tons. Yeah.
Yes, and
A ton of what?
Precisely, because
It's a ton of carbon equivalent.
carbon equivalent.
Yes.
Then just
Or
when you
other greenhouse gases equivalent to 1
all
ton.
right. Now,
See the
just when
complication?
you begin to understand it, somebody throws biodiversity. Now you're wondering, okay, so what are we measuring?
Yeah.
But let me ask this question, Mheshimiwa. This initiative is supposed to essentially be kicked off on Monday, officially.
We are just taking advantage of the short rains.
Okay.
Yeah.
It
has been ongoing.
Why I ask is because I want to understand the design of it. Because even as we talk about planting trees, as you say correctly, it's not just the carbon credit thingamajig and everything around it. When you talk trees, you're talking forests. When you talk forests, you're talking indigenous trees, indigenous forests. You've now introduced some forests and some trees that you can plant in some of the semi-arid areas. You've talked about the food element. So all these things must have a design. Because the moment you say what you said, there is a design.
Yes.
Could you walk us through this design?
Speaking of our strategy.
Yes.
We have a strategy.
Yes.
Where it's rangelands and ecosystems restoration strategy.
Yes.
Of course, at the core of that is the 15 billion tree growing initiative. And what we've done is we have divided this 15 billion into various intervention areas. We have agroforestry as an intervention area, and it has a whole strategy and the various players in the country that would engage in agroforestry to feed into the 15 billion trees. We have the arid and semi-arid areas. That's where we have the biggest potential. The land is available, but it has specific tailored interventions that work for those areas. We have our gazetted forests, which is just a small percentage of the space available for these 15 billion trees. In fact, the biggest potential lies in individual farmlands, by individual Kenyans, and of course the community forests, mostly within counties in the arid and semi-arid areas. We have the coastal opportunities, the mangroves. They have a whole strategy to it, and they are touted as one of the highest carbon sequesters in that carbon credit story. We have a bamboo plantation strategy, and we have allocated hectareage to each and every of these. There are 11 intervention areas with a specific interventions and strategies specific to those areas. Bamboo, for example, is one where we can really have a lot of, enterprises around it. It's going to support a lot of manufacturing sectors and, the whole livelihood support, So I am speaking from that strategy, and we have had to onboard a wide range of players. For each intervention area, we have a government lead paired up with a private sector lead or a non-state actor lead. And for each intervention area, again, they can only be achieved in specific counties because we are also, framing the strategy around counties. So it can only be achieved around specific counties. For example, mangroves, like I said, it can only happen in very specific areas. Even the fodder trees, the bamboo, it cannot really work across the landscapes in the country. So that is the strategy we are on. It has already kicked off. And we also have the commercial forest plantations.
I was going there.
Owned by government. There is a strategy around that. And these are plantations specifically designed for commercial value. And they are government-owned forests. And it's about 5% of the total gazetted forests, government forests in the country. And, they have a cycle of how that works out, because they are time-bound in terms of the maturity of the trees. They have to be harvested and put into the commercial wood industry. So that is the design of the strategy, and that's where I'm speaking from.
One last thing. For this to be sustainable beyond our lifespan and our times, is there a plan to ensure that these ideas are part and parcel of the learning of our children, so that our children grow up knowing all these things, so that it's something they consider normal?
Yeah. I have been very, very intentional, and of course at cabinet level we've also been very intentional on that, because like I started by saying, this Monday I'm really hoping that it will be a mind shift for Kenyans, a behavior change, and different perspectives that Kenyans will have for our environmental protection. And it has to start with our value systems. And the best place to begin is at the ABCs, with our children. So me and my education colleague Machogu, we have actually jointly taken through cabinet a memorandum which sets out a clear framework on how our learning institutions, the CBC and the curricula that we have coming up through KICD should be very, very intentional and targeted in making sure that environmental conservation and protection becomes an ABC for our children.
Right.
And that is happening. That's in the offing. It's been in the books, but we are not really. It's been loosely in the books, in the strategies of the Ministry of Education. The intention has been there, but for me, for the time I'll be CS for environment, that's an area that I really am keen on and pushing to make sure that a 1-year-old child can be trained to plant a tree. So, our kindergarten level children at 3 years, 4 years, it really should start from there. And children are very important agents of change. They will push even their parents to
do it,
to do stuff.
Yeah.
My children, put me to task with how I handle my waste. And they really push you. Yeah.
You have to separate
when
your
they
waste.
see grandmothers throwing things out the window, it just becomes something else. And if we are serious about inculcating the values and culture in our children, we will listen to them and we will move with them. So if we begin it at the ABC stage, I think it's going to be very sustainable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Waziri, so there's a strategy at play here. There's what has been discussed, what's being implemented, and it's coming from the very top. The president himself is leading on this. The president himself went and convinced other African leaders, let's have our own climate conversation. The Africa Climate Summit took place, hosted in Nairobi successfully. So there's been a calendar of events that's been taking place. I feel, though, that Monday one was not in a calendar. Or why were we only told about this 13th of November, this Monday, and told next week Monday will be a tree growing day. We have 100 million trees to plant on the day. Everything else that needs to happen, is it happening? Do we have tree nurseries? Schools are closed. Our biggest ambassadors, like you said, are at home. How do we mobilize the entire country towards this? Was this in a plan, or was it influenced by something that happened or that's supposed to happen this week?
Thank you, Eric. Like I said, we have a target to do 15 billion trees in 10 years. That translates to 1.5 billion trees every year. And beside the strategy, the strategy, the boardroom strategy, where we sit and write and think about those intervention areas, we now have the God strategy, the natural strategy, which is the rains and the right moisture content to support our tree growing, which naturally is fashioned around the two rainy seasons, the long and the short. So we have actually had different dates thought around, but then the rains kept shifting. The predictions, actually, the whole discussion about whether we are going into El Nino or how much rain we are expecting, there has been delay because the Mets told us that we were supposed to kick off the short rains in mid-October. But it didn't kick off until maybe a week ago is when we started seeing some serious momentum to a semblance of sustained rainfall in the country. And we don't know for how long it is going to be there again. The projections and predictions are that it could even spill over up to January. That would be great if that happens. But the peak again is said to be November, and you can see already it's quite it's picking up. So we are optimistic that by Monday we should really be able to do tree planting across the country. So that is what has dictated a choice of dates. We had actually picked earlier dates, but then there was no rain coming. So there is no external push or some activity that is driving this. Certainly not from the climate summit or
So with the date for Monday then, Mheshimiwa, you're telling all public servants at national and county level not to report to work. All people who are working in private companies not to report to work, to go and plant trees. Where will they pick the tree seedlings from? Is there such conversation? Let's pick the example of my hometown, Kimana, Loitoktok.
Right.
Where are people in Kimana, Loitoktok, those who work for national, county, and private institutions, going to pick trees from? Where do I tell my mother to go and pick seedlings for her and her neighbors, and even in the neighboring areas, Namelok, Sinet, and others? Where do we get our tree seedlings from?
So once again, to go back to your question on whether this was a very impromptu, decision, we have been calculating and really planning around it for some time at cabinet level, at my ministry level, and in partnership with the county governments. We have had discussions around this, and of course we have made some attempt to really popularize the campaign around 15 billion trees. So from the very top level, we have, through a directive of cabinet or a decision of cabinet, assigned cabinet secretaries to at least two counties each. Each one of us has 2 counties to champion the initiative and provide, some form of coordination and leadership in bringing the governors together, the county commissioners, and all the other players within the counties, but also for cabinet secretaries to mobilize their own ministries, departments, and agencies to support the initiative, to actually drive the initiative. I said this is one of those whole of government approach. Literally, without that, this cannot succeed. It's whole of government, whole of society, whole of community. It's everybody has to buy into this and plug in. So with that coordination, at the county level, we have the county commissioners have been tasked to convene technical planning teams. Ordinarily, we have the county environment committees at each county It consists of the county commissioner, or rather, let me say, national government administration at various levels, the county government, and Kenya Forest Service, National Environment Management Authority, NEMA, KEFRI. KEFRI is not everywhere, but it is in quite some parts of this country. We now have 18 seed centers that are available across the country to provide that technical backstopping for the whole plan. We also have some non-state actors as part of that county-level environmental committee. And it is a committee that exists. It's been there, but it's not been quite active. So one of the things that this will help us achieve this Monday event, and that is how it is fashioned in the counties, is that we will really begin to seriously activate the county environment committees, because it brings everybody together. At the technical level, the county commissioner convenes, and we have our Kenya Forest Service county forest conservators sitting there. And KFS, Kenya Forest Service, is really the first line of support for this exercise. So we have 3 nurseries across the country at Kenya Forest Service stations, at KEFRI stations where they exist. We have regional development authorities, 6 of them, the likes of ENSDA, the Coast Regional Development Authority, there are 6 of them. And those regional development authorities also have 3 nurseries in their establishments. We have targeted our government entities, the NYS. Through KEFRI, we have provided seeds in large volumes to NYS. They have set up nurseries across the countries, and they have their numbers and targets. They have targets of how many seedlings to propagate. KDF is playing a very critical role because one of the biggest challenges we are facing is the seedling availability. Let me say that. Yeah, that's a big challenge.
Which is why I was asking the question. For those who are watching in Kimana,
right,
where do they get their seedlings from? I mean, what do people do on Monday? You don't want it to be a waste where people wake up, all right, so I want to plant a tree, sleep, but I don't have seedlings. And then
so we are going to have one national event presided over by the president in Makueni, the Q wetland. So we will have thousands of seedlings. We are targeting to do not less than 100,000 in that particular site. We will have sufficient seedlings even to give to members of the public who will come for those functions. But those who will not, and then simultaneously in each county, with this arrangement of cabinet secretaries assigned to that county, the governor, the county commissioner, we shall have county level events. But that doesn't stop any Kenyan or our members of parliament, for that matter, for example, to do an event away from this one of the county commissioner and governor and CS, to do it in their constituencies. And by end of today, we will be publishing, making it public at county level for Kenyans to know where the seedlings are located, where they can actually get them through the Kenya Forest Service and these other entities. Progressively, our plan, which we have not actualized right now, is that we will have a tree nursery at every chief's camp. And that
as government.
And by the next rainy season, the long rains next year, I can categorically say that we will have achieved that. And once we have the seedlings devolved to that level of the chief's camps, beside, Kenya Forest Service stations are also not at the proximity of everybody. I mean, they are, far from other people. Maybe your village, Kimana,
forest.
Is it Kimana?
Yeah.
Hakuna forest.
Hakuna Kenya Forest Service hapo.
I hope sio kukula mmekula forest huko.
Iko juu Loitoktok.
Yeah, if it's in Loitoktok, it really does not serve the purpose to tell your villagers that you
wake up and go to Loitoktok for the seedlings.
Eric, I'm sure we have young people who have nurseries very close to your village.
That's true. Mheshimiwa, all I'm just trying to establish here
Yes.
is with a plan, with a date set,
Yeah,
working backwards.
still answering to your question.
Was there a proper,
Yeah.
plan on what we are going to do on Monday
Yeah,
that informed Monday and
Right.
said, so by Monday,
Yeah.
everything, all the ducks will be in a row. We will have people planting trees.
yes.
Or is it going to be just this one at Q Forest with the president and others with the cabinet secretaries somewhere, but then the rest of us are spectators?
It is
Which means that
yeah.
there's no point of calling a public holiday.
right. It is everybody, Eric. And like I said, I would encourage all of us Kenyans listening and watching to make that attempt. Just find your space, even in your own backyard.
So I think that's as much as that you're saying, because I think the way it came out is as though, this is government, is an initiative. It is, but that everybody is going to wait for instructions, and this is where you'll be able to get them. But what I hear you saying is that, excuse me, ownership of this, and then being able to take the initiative even on your own as Kenyans in the community where you are, and then be able to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Let me tell
and
you-
don't wait for
Yeah.
CS Soipan Tuya to come to your community and say, let's go.
With a seedling.
Yeah. Let me tell you, and I said this at the beginning, if we achieve nothing more than a Kenyan knowing that it's their responsibility. Yes, we have seedlings. We will have them in the specific sites, but not every Kenyan will come to the site. But if each Kenyan even bought a seedling, one, at 10 shillings or 15 or 20, just one. And I know we are in a fiscal situation.
Yeah.
But if a Kenyan just bought one seedling, we would be able to do 50 million seedlings on this particular day at the bare minimum. Of course, we will surpass that target because I can be able to do 1,000 or 2,000. So we will really hit high targets. And we have an app, a mobile app. We are calling the Jazamiti app, and the other call. And from today, Wednesday, we will be having a very targeted campaign to tell Kenyans, please, even if you only manage to do one tree during this whole space, please record it.
Okay.
And the app is easily accessible. We are going to make sure Kenyans know about it. It's called the Jazamiti app. If you are to search for it on your phone, you will get it. I have it on my phone. It is, every tree that we plant, because right now we are not recording. And if we don't record, then we will only be talking and really doing nothing in the end. From my app right now, the total recording that has been done of the trees as we speak is 121,713 million. 121 million or 122 million. Since we started the campaign. And it's a year ago. So we have a lot of work to do for Kenyans to know about the Jazamiti app. And it is not 121 trees that have been planted. It's more
than that.
It's more than this.
So that was my question then, because we'll have a day on Monday where it's commemorative that this is happening, but then to plant a tree and to grow a tree and to keep it, of course, is a totally different activity. And so the question is, how will we make sure that this remains? We've seen countries on this planet, who have restored their forests by this tracking, who've been able to restore significantly. You talk about the Brazils and people like this who are under threat of the jungle disappearing, and then made a spirited effort and said, let's start planting, let's keep growing, and let's make sure that we keep up. So I think for me the question is all this effort, because politics aside, Waziri and all these other things that can creep into the conversation, if there is a decision and a commitment to do this, the question is the commitment then must go beyond the planting and the day towards ensuring that these remain to achieve some of these things that you started off with, restoration of food barns and things like that. Is it there, and how then? You talked about the Jazamiti, but what else to make sure that these, if we achieve the 15 billion, to ensure that in generations to come, they will still be there?
Yeah. We and it's still the campaign. For me, Monday is really the campaign to make Kenyans own this process. And I'm saying I would be very happy if by Monday we will have each Kenyan plant just one seedling. And don't wait for Soipan to bring the seedling to your doorstep. We have close to 150 million plantable seedlings within our reach, which those that we can say they are in this and this locality within the counties. But not everyone will be able to reach where those seedlings are. And we may not be able to do a door-to-door. And for me, if we do a door-to-door, then we are not achieving the objective. Because there has to be a drive from an individual Kenyan to actually know that this is a serious exercise, beneficial to all of us. Let's take the rallying call and do our bit. Just one. For me, we will have achieved that. And the intention is really, we have been planting, if we had been doing things the right way in this country, the number of trees that have been planted in this country, gosh, we would be living in a jungle, literally, if it was done right. But it has been a pastime, people meet and do one tree, and it's just planting and then they move away. For me, for example, the Q wetland that we are going to, I do not go to any place to plant a tree where I know it's not fenced, where cows will not follow after me and eat the seedlings. So it has to be fenced. And even if I do only 10 and I know they are secure, for me that is the sustainability we are looking for. The Q wetland, we are in partnership with the Governor Mutula Kilonzo Jr. He has taken up the fencing. He's going to do the fencing, and we are going to invite other players, some conservancy players around the area, KWS and KFS, to make sure. And the site, for example, where we planted trees during the president's birthday, when we rolled out this exercise, it was in Ngong. Please visit that place. And for me, it's just demonstrating to Kenyans that even if it is one, please take care of it until it matures. Instead of doing 1 million that we have no plan for. When you go to the Ngong site where we did 5,600 trees during the president's birthday, and we did it it was not raining in December last year. So, and because it was the president's birthday and we had to begin the campaign, we had to do it because we intended to do it. So we had to make sure there were water bowsers available throughout. We fenced the place and put young people to take care of the trees. It's 100% successful. And that's the intention we want to achieve across the country. We have deliberately picked the Q wetland in Makueni. Wetlands are a low-hanging fruit. We have water around our wetlands all through the year. So whether it's raining or not, if you fence off the wetland area, you only need a little support for the seedlings to survive. And our wetlands are endangered. I like to give the example of Lake Olbolosat, and it's a lake. It's the source of Ewasonyiro River, or maybe closer home, it's where we have the Thompson Falls coming from. When you do check when you go to the Thompson Falls, it's now some trickles of water coming, and the lake itself is.
Olbolosat is now a pond.
It's not even a pond. The last time I was there,
it's dry.
There were cows grazing right
at the center of the lake.
Center of the lake. So that's how bad it is, and that is for me the awakening that we need to bring Kenyans to. And if we achieve that on Monday, and it's a journey. We start on Monday. I really hope that Kenyans can see it the way I am seeing the vision. Let's walk this journey
and own it.
And
it's all about ownership, and like you said, it's a clarion call for all of us to think, okay, what can we do individually from wherever we are?
And it's a life and death now.
Country.
It's a life and death now. It's about livelihoods. It's about look at the destruction that we are having now with the short rains. Lives lost, livelihoods and all that.
Waziri, we thank you very much for joining us today. Please come again soon. You need to come so that you can teach us about carbon credit, tell us who is selling our credit, how many tons we have in this country, and all those things. Right? The Honorable Soipan Tuya is the Cabinet Secretary for Environment, Climate Change and Forestry. She's been our guest this morning. Monday is a holiday, not for you to sleep. Let's go and plant trees.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.